Does everyone feel like they can do the P's, Q's, and possible zeros? Okay, and you know how to find which one works, right? You plug them in, look for one that equals 0. Once you find one that works, you do what? Synthetic division. When I say find the zeros, zeros are just your numbers. When I say write the factored form, what does a factored form have in it? It's got the x's. One thing that I had a lot of questions about, there were some problems last night where it said you have a polynomial with real coefficients and your zeros were, let's say, negative I, 3 minus 5i, and 7. Write the polynomial in factored form. So when I say factored form, what do we have to have with it? Okay, so it's f of x equals, and I'm going to write all of my parentheses. If negative I is a 0, what's going to be in my parentheses? And why did you say an x minus I as well? Yeah, remember, imaginary zeros come in pairs. So if negative I is a 0, so is positive I. So we'll have an x minus I as well. Okay, if 3 minus 5i is my 0, my factor would be x. And if 3 minus 5i works, so does. So we'll have x minus 3 minus 5i. And if 7 works, we would get, do I have to do negative 7 as well? No, because imaginary zeros come in pairs, but real ones do not. Doesn't matter what order you have those parentheses. No. So just keep in mind, first look at your zeros and see if I gave them all to you. If there's imaginary numbers and I didn't give you the conjugate, you have to add them to the list. And then you should have a parenthesis for each 0. If I give you the first 0, so we did some factoring polynomials where I gave you the first 0, so then you get to skip your P's and Q's and jump right in. So that was the most recent section. The section before we did synthetic division, which we should be really good at now. We're doing that all the time. But we also had some long division. So let's try a long division problem. If I said 4x cubed minus 5x squared minus 3x plus 1 divided by x squared minus x minus 1. What do you do? The numerator goes underneath. My denominator goes out in front. Okay, then we divide the first terms. So we have 4x cubed divided by x squared, and that gives us 4. So we have 4x up here. Then we multiply 4x times the x squared minus x minus 1. So we get 4x cubed minus 4x squared minus 4x. What do we do from here? Negative and positive 4x cubed cancel. Negative 5x squared and positive 4x squared would be a negative x squared. Negative 3x plus 4x is x, and we bring down our plus 1. Huh. I made up a really nice problem, guys. You should be impressed with me. So now we divide again. What's negative x squared divided by x squared? And we multiply. So negative 1 times x squared minus x minus 1. We get negative x squared plus x plus 1. Switch our signs, and what happens? Everything cancels. So my answer is just 4x minus 1. I couldn't do that again if I tried. That was just pure luck. But if we had something left, let's say we had like a 5 left, what would we do? Yeah, for our final answer. Okay. Are we okay with that? I'm really impressed. That worked out so nice. So that was section 3-2. Section 3.1 was talking about quadratics. So if I gave you a quadratic, can you tell me, does this open up or down? Up. How do you know? The A is positive. If I asked you, does it have a maximum or a minimum, what would it be? Minimum. And we know that because if it's opening up, it looks like that. If I asked you to find that minimum value, what am I asking you to find? Vertex. Good. How do we find the vertex? So, it'll be negative 6 over 2 times 4. So negative 6/8 or negative 3/4. Remember, the vertex is an ordered pair. How do we get the y? Okay. See if this one works out as nice as our last problem. And so I get negative 7.25 or negative 29 over 4. Let's get that. If I ask you for the axis of symmetry, what is that? X equals the negative 3/4. Just the x value of the vertex. But if I ask for that, you have to give me the equation, not just negative 3/4. If I ask you for the y-intercept, how do we find that? And we get negative 5. So if I asked you to use all this to draw me a graph, I'm not going to be the prettiest graph ever, but let's try it. Okay, so my vertex is negative 3/4, negative 29/4, or negative 7.25. Axis of symmetry is a vertical line going through that. Y-intercept was negative 5. How many points do we have to have on our graph? 3. So this one is 3/4 away from my axis of symmetry. So the other one would have to go 3/4 the other direction. So it would take me to negative 1.5. Get our graph. Could you tell me the domain of that? What's my range? Or negative 29/4 to infinity, either way. Alright, so that's kind of everything we've done so far in chapter 3. Are we ready?